It was a meeting meant to change the world. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, hand in hand on the eve of the Ukraine war, promising a no-limits friendship in a thinly veiled challenge to the US. But more than 18 months on, Xi is holding Putin at arm's length, and the Russian leader is instead forced to press flesh with North Korean despot Kim Jong Un. Kim is now part of a cabal of outcasts that Putin must rely on to prop up his failing war effort, which also includes the Iranian Ayatollahs. On the one hand, it shows just how desperate and isolated Russia has become. But on the other, it presents fresh threats to the West, especially if Russia begins sharing nuclear secrets that North Korea and Iran are no doubt desperate to learn. This is the story of how one man's mission to tear down the world order could end with doomsday weapons in the hands of two of its biggest tyrants. This is the story of Putin's axis of evil. Putin surely had high hopes as he left his meeting with Xi in February last year. Whether the two discussed Ukraine or not, he must have felt he had Xi's blessing to go ahead, because just 3 weeks later, his troops marched across the border. If that was the case, then he must be bitterly disappointed now. Beijing has helped to prop up Russia's economy by buying oil and gas, but at a huge discount, and has aided the war by shipping some supplies to its army, but not weapons or ammo. Instead, Putin has been forced to turn to fellow international pariahs, Iran and North Korea. Tehran has supplied thousands of Shahed suicide drones, which the Kremlin has used to terrorize Ukraine's cities and energy grid. And Pyongyang is thought to have supplied tons of artillery shells to tear up Ukraine's front lines. Both nations could soon begin supplying Putin with missiles as he prepares to rain death from Ukraine's skies over the winter. And the US believes Russia and North Korea could be on the verge of a major arms deal. War expert Michael Clark believes Kim could even send troops to defend Russia, allowing Putin to push more of his men to the front line. The Russian leader no doubt hopes these vital supplies will help prolong his war as he tries to outweight the West. But he must know that nothing he can get from either country will radically alter the situation on the battlefield. The bigger threat lies in what the Iranians and the North Koreans are likely to demand in return for their help. Russia has the world's largest nuclear stockpile and has plenty of know-how when it comes to constructing atomic bombs. Though Tehran denies it, there is little doubt that the Ayatollahs have been trying to acquire a bomb for years. They are now thought to be closer than ever, and even a modest amount of help from Russia could prove decisive. David Barnea, the head of Mossad, seemed to hint at that this week when he voiced fears that Russia could send advanced weapons to its new defense partner. Those weapons, he said, will certainly endanger our peace and maybe even our existence. If Iran were to acquire the bomb, then the likes of Saudi Arabia would likely try to follow suit, sparking a nuclear arms race in one of the world's most volatile regions. Pyongyang already has the bomb, along with missiles capable of striking virtually anywhere on Earth, and warheads small enough to place on top of them. But there is still plenty of advanced nuclear technology that it lacks, and some experts believe Russia may have already begun supplying it. On July the 12th, North Korea tested its latest and largest nuclear missile, the Hwasong-18, which is thought to be its first rocket powered by solid fuel. That makes it easier to store, quicker to launch, and capable of carrying more warheads, including decoys, which makes any nuclear attack harder to stop. Analysts at the CSIS think tank in the US believe the Hwasong-18 may in fact be a Russian Topol-M missile in disguise. The rockets are the same size and shape, and tracking data suggests they fly in a near identical way. North Korea's test also occurred a suspiciously short time after it had tested the missile engine, suggesting it had help completing the project. And just 2 weeks after the launch, Russia's defense minister visited Kim and was given a tour of his missile forces. CSIS argues that it is very difficult to explain that series of events unless North Korea had Russian help. If it did, then that spells trouble. Topol-M was developed by Russia specifically to evade US missile defenses, and now that technology could be in the hands of Kim's generals just as the threat of a war in the Pacific grows. And that may only be the start of it. North Korea is known to be working on a nuclear submarine, which Russia has plenty of experience in building. And Kim is keen to develop a space program to launch spy satellites. Putin appeared to agree to help him at their meeting this week, which took place at a Russian cosmodrome. For the last 18 months, the war against Ukraine has stayed where it started, in Ukraine. But as the fighting drags on, it will increasingly draw in other countries as Kiev and Moscow both turn to their allies to keep their armies in the fight. The longer the war goes on, the closer that Putin's axis of evil will become, and the greater the threat it will pose. If Russian technology, particularly nuclear technology, ends up in the hands of North Korea and Iran, it will threaten the world order as we know it. And if that happens, then it will mean victory for Putin, whether his army can win in Ukraine or not. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this.